we're going to look at a number of issues this hour. And those issues will come as we discuss with the Member of Parliament in Samburu West Constituency. Naisula Lesuuda is not a guest or not a stranger to the Situation Room, and she's here with us this morning. Mheshimiwa, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Very well.
Yes?
How are you?
Very well. Good to have you here again.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
We've got a lot of things to talk about today, and I think one of the headliners that we'll be looking at is actually women's leadership and looking at that agenda and what it's actually providing for the country. But then there are so many other things that come into play that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. But we're going to welcome you in true Situation Room style as you're in the hot seat of the Situation Room. This fine gentleman, you know what he does. He goes around the country and gets back here, around the continent, gets back here really quickly, and he's got proverbs. He's got a proverb for today, so he's going to tell us what that is, and then you can tell us how you would interpret that.
Well,
I was hoping I don't get that, but yes.
I mean, a cup of tea is a cup of tea, Mheshimiwa.
I actually want to apologize for dashing your hopes, because dashing your hopes is what I'm going to do, because I am going to state the proverb, and thereafter I am going to ask you what you think or how you'd interpret it. Our proverbs for the last 4 weeks, including this week, have been from countries on the continent of Africa that are landlocked. This is the final proverb from the country of Chad, the Republic of Chad, which is landlocked. Next week, we'll be looking at countries that border huge water bodies, meaning oceans. So we'll be going around Africa looking at those countries. He who will be famous, he who wants to be famous, will have many sleepless nights. See? Mheshimiwa knows it's a simple proverb. Simple, straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, the beauty is there's no right or wrong answer on this.
Correct, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah, so if you want to be famous, you'll have sleepless nights because you'll have a lot to do and to take care of. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. So, because there's a lot you'll have to do, there's a lot you have to deal with to make sure that then you're famous. And sleepless nights doesn't mean that it was going to be easy. It's going to have its own ups and downs, and you have to deal with it. So simply put, that is what it is, sleepless nights.
Yep. A lot of work is going to go into it. A lot of work has also gone into, what many call the struggle, getting into certain places of leadership. Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen quite a number of things happen, Mheshimiwa. If you want to look at some historical aspects, we've seen for the first time in Kenya's history a female AG. We have seen that the Chief Justice making some statements. We have seen an impeachment, third time, and this time many would say successful or unfortunate impeachment of governor. There are many things happening right now. I'd like to get your overview as somebody who is quite, in the forefront when you say some of these things. We saw the impeachment of the Meru governor happen very quickly. The week before last, the motion came from the Meru County Assembly, and she was impeached. It went to Senate, submissions were given, and the next day, Senate made the decision to impeach her. Your thoughts about that? Let's start off with that impeachment issue.
So I must say that the impeachment of Governor Kawira is unfortunate. And I'm not speaking looking at it from the gender lens. I would have said the same things if it was a male governor who went through, especially the third impeachment process, like what Governor Kawira went through. Having followed keenly the first and the second impeachment, I find it that the MCAs of Meru County are determined, regardless of whether she does anything better in her leadership style, whether she improves on the issues that were raised. They're determined. And why do I say so? Immediately impeachment was thrown out the second time, we had the MCAs singing outside the Senate, and we had them address the media, both in Nairobi and also in Meru County, saying that in the next 6 months, because that is what the provision of the law says, that you can start an impeachment process again after 6 months, they said, we will bring you back here, So, meaning, we are not successful, but we'll bring you a third and a fourth and a fifth time until you go home. And why I'm saying I don't want to look at it as a gender, that just because she's a woman, we've already crossed that bridge. She's already successful. She's the governor. So we're not going to dwell on which tyrants she flawed and all that. That we have already crossed.
Yeah.
It's about her now as the governor. So there is that aspect, that the MCAs are determined that Governor Kawira has to go home. The Senate, my assumption is that they were thinking 3 times is too many. And that is what Kenyans are also thinking, that, hey, you'll keep coming here. It's like we have no other business to do.
Yeah.
And politics is all about facts, but also perceptions and misperceptions and misconceptions, And so I feel like the Senate felt that, what? For Meru County to move forward, we have to sacrifice one person, and that unfortunately is Governor Kawira, so that then Meru County can move forward. And why do I say so? Because of how rushed the process was, and even the process was flawed. Because in the first place, we're having the same charges from the second impeachment, word for word, in the third impeachment. You found them not suitable for her to go home in the second impeachment. What happened in the third impeachment, where we have the same charges, the things, and it was mostly about abuse of office, the people that were employed, irregularly and all that. That was canvassed and concluded in the second impeachment. So what changed in the third impeachment? The third issue is that after the whole process in the Senate, the Speaker ruled that there will be no debate.
Yeah.
Why should they? So that looks like something that already they've come to listen to the impeachment process with a fixed mind that Governor Kawira has to go. I mean, why couldn't have members, the 14 or the less than 14 who voted against the impeachment, have their say, even if they won't have their way? Parliaments are there for debate, for argument, for both those for and those against. And so I found it wrong that there was no debate after the submissions. The third issue that I saw also that tells me there was a predetermined thought about her impeachment is that she was not given the floor, the stand,
right,
to speak, because an accused, even if you're going to impeach her, should be given the floor to actually say a few things. And maybe one of the things she would have said is that these are the same charges in the second impeachment. That did not happen. So I just feel that this was a fixed thought, and it looks like even the political parties, there was a directive, I don't know, or they had a position, I don't know. But I mean, in the manner and the process that it happened, you can just tell there's an issue. However, that is not to say that Governor Kawira, who already has reprieve from the court ruling, my feeling and my thought is that Governor Kawira is also just a circumstance maybe of her leadership style. I don't know, because it's just my thought. And so if she survives through the courts, she has to also retrospect and to think about her leadership style. And why do I say that? That anytime there's conflict, there has to be a process of mediation. There has to be a process, because as I've said, it probably is not really tangible issues because they were thrown out in the second impeachment. But it seems to me there's a relationship issue between herself as the governor and the MCAs and the members of parliament from that county and generally the leadership of that county. The public, we can't say they have a problem with Governor Kawira.
Right.
They elected her.
Indeed.
Regardless of all the challenges. She's an independent candidate. She fought the man and all that. So it has nothing to do with the public. The public will have another chance in case she survives after 5 years in 2027 to say whether they have a problem with Kawira or not. But in between here, then it has to be, the onus has to be on the governor to make an extra effort to see to it that there will be a mediation process. Allow me to cite that when Governor Anne Waiguru was impeached and the impeachment was thrown out, I am privy to the fact that there was a mediation process between her and the MCAs of Kirinyaga, where the mediators were the Mount Kenya Foundation leadership, where we know they generally come from the central part of Kenya. We have very renowned and respected old men and people who have been in leadership in various private sector and all that in public sector. And they sat through for about 3 or 4 days, listening to the MCAs, listening to the governor, bringing them together, them not agreeing, them disagreeing, and then generally just agreeing that for the sake of the county, we have to work. And that does not mean that the MCAs do not do their oversight job. Please do your oversight job, but objectively. The governor, as you execute as the executive, as you execute your mandate as well, respect the other leadership and the roles that they have to play, and then you move forward as a county. And so those are just my thoughts.
Was the gender card played? Because there's from very many sectors saying that, well, the reason why they're going after her like this is because she's a woman. And then would you see it then as an impediment to leadership from a women's perspective? Many said, well, the only reason why they're doing this is because they didn't want her there. It's a traditional patriarchal society. But then going back to the point that, well, really? But they voted her in on an independent ticket. So can we really play the gender card here?
I really don't want to advance that agenda because the more we continue to advance it, and as I have said, she already beat her odds at the ballot when she was elected. Of course, there are many stereotypes that hinder the leadership and the advancement of the leadership of women, which Governor Kawira trounced the day she was elected as a governor. And the moment now she holds the office, she then becomes the governor of Meru. And she's a woman, yes, it's a fact. But then those who will want to tell us don't play the gender card will raise the real issues. Was there abuse of office? Did you go against the Constitution and all that? And I would like to stick on those issues. And I still think even going by those issues, the impeachment of Kawira, to me, is quite unfortunate, and it is biased. So yes, it could be that yes, it's a woman, and she has had, there's always that point that we can't believe how she beat all these men on an independent ticket and all that. But really, that is not what was before the Senate during the impeachment.
Right.
And so we stick to the issues, and still looking at the issues, I think the impeachment of Governor Kawira was flawed.
I just when you spoke on the mediation, I mean, it's talking about her responsibility and efforts to at least ensure that she's engaging better with the MCAs, at least as a leader. It was very clear that in the second impeachment, process, she, apologized 70 times, they say, 69 times to the MCAs, and one specific apology to the speaker, and also the Njuri Cheke, if I pronounce it correctly, just distanced themselves from this particular one. When you speak of mediation, I mean, in that position, what else would in your sense would she do? She even tried to add some funding, I think, for the ward, allocation by a bit of money there. So I'm looking at her leadership style really coming in, and the mediation and the apology, and why it didn't work for her this time.
So Anki, for someone who has been I've done a lot in the peace field. An apology is not enough.
Okay.
It is a start, right, of goodwill. of olive branch that here I am, I've apologized, and I would like us to have a conversation. It can't end there. You can imagine something that has built up for the last 2 years cannot end with just saying, I'm sorry. It is a start. And the mediation has to happen, because also sometimes when we don't talk with each other, what happens a lot with us, the leadership in our country, is we talk at each other. I say my point, you say your point, and mine is right and yours is wrong. That is how we do it. And so you could find that generally it's a lot of, because there's no communication, with each other, then the MCAs have a certain view of the governor. And then the governor, because she's not talking with the MCAs, she has a different view of them. And so it will continue to be a pull and push between the two of them and even the other leaders, because we've seen also members of parliament, almost all of them, siding with the MCAs.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the governor then comes out like she's a lone ranger and working alone. But probably if they sat together, and I know His Excellency the Deputy President tried. He had a meeting with the leadership, the MCAs. I know he's had meetings with the MPs and even with Governor Kawira. But you see, again, I keep saying mediation is a process. Peace is a process. It's not a one-off. So it can take 2 days, it can take 3 days, it can take a month, and it could even take 2 months. And then later we will just realize, you know what, these guys can actually work together with everyone doing their job, and Governor Kawira might just become one of the best governors under the right space and environment to perform. And then you find that, you know what, she will even be re-elected in 2027, and the men will be like, hi, yeah, this lady is not that bad. And the lady will be like, okay, so the issues the MCAs are raising are genuine. Maybe I need to correct ABCD. So we really need to talk with each other. Look at Governor Kipwana. He was written off. By the time he was calling for the disillusionment of Makueni County, he had been written off by the leadership, by everybody, and even by most Kenyans. What happened when they sat down and they talked together and they reasoned together? He was able to perform and to go to an election. He is one of the best governors we keep referring to, and he was even re-elected a second term. And we're looking at the work he's done at the health sector in the economy of Makueni in making sure that there's value addition in the agriculture sector and everything in Makueni. And so for me, mediation is a process, and it has to be followed.
You're clearly a peacemonger. Clearly, because you've put it so beautifully well. Yes, the unlikely and yet very positive outcomes when people are willing to simply listen and talk with each other. About Makueni, if I get my figures right, when we had the election in the new election cycle, only one of the MCAs went back. So indeed, the people of Makueni sided with their governor. The very thing that you've said seems to be the one thing that we have not been able to do as a country. Where people hold on to positions and they stick by those positions. So the opportunity to even let a little air get into the position so that you can reevaluate it is not given.
Yeah, there's not really a chance for people to reason together, because people have taken very hard positions. And that's why I said on this one, it's not just about Kawira and her being a woman. It is for any other governor. If we go the way and the route that we're going, we're really lowering the threshold of impeachment. We're really going low, because then using the same charges, just because you bring the same charges, nothing new. And the governor then goes, the deputy governor is a beneficiary of an impeachment process, very happily. So the sweat of the governor, you get it through an impeachment process, because campaigning is not easy. And so then what happens is that then we're giving the mandate, and it was given very rightfully by our constitution, to a few people. There was a thought process on why those few people are given the mandate. But then the threshold has to be clear and it has to be high, so that by the time we're impeaching you, we are so clear in our minds that you've broken the law, you have not followed the constitution, you've abused office, and then we'll all be comfortable saying, you know what, you have to go. That is why the decision is on a very few number of people through the impeachment process. And there is the bigger population which also has, and I'm not saying it is wrong, that is why it was in our constitution, but the threshold has to be high up there. Otherwise, first we will discourage other people from ever running for office. As a woman, I'd be so scared to run, put so much effort, so much resources, sell my agenda manifesto, and then a few people lower the threshold of impeachment. Don't forget that once you're impeached in this country, you cannot ever hold any public office, one. And two, once you are impeached, you can never run for any other elective position.
All right.
So the threshold has to be up there.
Very, very
and
high.
you have to convince me why this person has to go home.
Our guest this hour is the Honourable Naisula Lesuuda, who is the Member of Parliament for Samburu West Constituency, and looking at a number of issues. I mean, going over this previous topic of looking at the impeachment, but I think it segues into many others as we look at it at this point. The accountability of Parliament has come out loud and clear. The accountability issues when we look at very many things around the country and say who's going to push for it. Education is a big one, and we've seen many rumblings over the last couple of days. Teachers going on strike, funds in terms of bursaries, who should put them in one pot, who should do what, and then we say, well, how come the politicians, how come the members of Parliament are not pushing for these issues when we talk about some of them needing to be done? Where are we? What's going on?
Right. So, as you've rightly put, education is one of the key pillars of any country, and for us as a nation. And I have said it, and I've been on record that we can't gamble with the future of our people and our children, and so we have to get it right. But do I have to say also, and I'm not saying that Parliament should be validated or be given credit, but a lot happens in Parliament. A lot of work actually goes in there. But we have set our minds that the preamble of any question to a parliamentarian is that we're doing nothing, that there's nothing we're doing. I mean, that is also just a fixed thing in our minds as Kenyans, and that's allowed, as we were told. If you want to be successful, you'll have sleepless nights. So and that perception has always also just amazed me on how.
Why do you think that perception persists, Mushmi?
So maybe it happened once that that parliamentarians have let Kenyans down, but then it continues, and I keep saying, and even the few that are doing well, we are always lumped together. We have to also start recognizing those who are doing good and well, because then it amplifies what we would like to see as a country, even amongst parliamentarians. But what happens is that the negative is what, of course, and that's what sells. That is what is news. But I also keep saying that we have to show the other side, because the thing is, then it's like we're glorifying those who are also not doing the right thing. Let me ask you, for example, who do we give news half the time? Who do we clap for, even as the public, when they enter a function? Who do we, so who are we amplifying? What are we really saying also as a people? But there could be a member of Parliament, from a constituency, not a good known constituency or a popular constituency, maybe not loud, not quiet, but working silently. Do we give them those spaces and to amplify their job? But that's a story for another day. Today we're talking about issues, and one of them is education, as you have said. For example, personally, I raised the question on the new education funding. I asked for a statement
in Parliament
to the chairperson of education. And the question is, as a nation, one, I don't believe in, if something is working, why do we have to change it? Just because the policy probably was from a previous regime or a previous president and all that, you can improve it without really overhauling the whole process, because we're a work in progress as a country, really, and governments are there for continuity. Having said that, we have a major overhaul in our higher education funding model, which has caused anxiety, panic in the country. And one of the results of it is that there was a report that the number of students who will be joining university this time has really gone down. Those who have accepted their calling letters. And I strongly believe this could be one of the challenges, because parents received a fee structure that was crazy, of up to 100,000+, and there was no explanation on what the government is going to pay and what the parent or the guardian is going to pay. That is why the ministry revoked, and also His Excellency the President then said that statement should be revoked.
Yes.
But why already cause panic to parents? Some have already written off. Actually, they've even looked for colleges and TTIs because, so, and there are things we cannot be doing guesswork or trisex or trying. It has to come out to the public when it is soundproof, when it is clear, and it especially on matters health and matters education. Those people who are holding those offices have to get that right, because you can't cause panic and then just like it's easy drop it now. Okay, now we've thought about it, drop it, and then again say, oh yeah, the deadline is on 15th. Oh, extend it. I mean, you can't play around with our children and the guardians and parents who are already so stressed with the economy and everything, and now you're stressing them even further.
And yet, Mweshimiwa, sorry, I have to interrupt. And yet, even with that realization, it happens every time with every issue.
For example, we're having an issue. There are floods. You tell children to go to school. The next minute, when they're ready to go to school, 2 days to... Others have already booked their buses. And then again you say, oh, no, it looks like the rains are still here. Oh, don't go to school. And we still move, and we go, and we, and so we
not even
have
2
to
days.
call it out.
Midnight. It was midnight.
Yeah. And then you wake up again and say, you know what? Oh, no, you go to school, and then don't go to school. Excuse me, we are stressing Kenyans. I think those who are mandated to do the execution, the executive, Kenyans are already stressed as it is. Please just don't make it worse for them. And that is why you saw them on the streets. You saw them banning Parliament. You saw them banning every other institution, because they just feel like, you know what, you're taking us for granted. Anyhow, we're where we are now. We're where we are now with this education funding model. We have said also as a parliament that please communicate and communicate efficiently and effectively. But then again, we didn't say now go use people's funerals and burials. When people are mourning, people want to go and bury already. It's already 4:00. Now you think that is where you're going to share your policies. There are very many other forums. There are very many other mediums that you can effectively communicate to Kenyans. And so now the questions that Kenyans are having is one. So people have a field and there are 5 bands. You're placed by it's automated. It places you from the information that you have keyed in, the band 1, band 2, band 3, and band 5. What we're saying is that we hope by now every student knows where to log in. I have it, but I'll have to look for it. But also it should be those who are the executors. My role is to oversight that they have done well. They should communicate to the students and the guardians to do it. Then you're placed band 1 or whichever band. What we discussed in Akamkunji the other day is that, and the speaker gave a ruling on the same, is that apart from just that, we need to have an appeal system, because I could be placed in the wrong band. And I have seen many children who are probably from the single parent or, single parent, they get more than an orphan.
Yes.
Or, or something like that. And I had also asked in my question whether this had been piloted properly, that it works. You can't pilot with kids who are reporting in September, actually in 2 weeks. But that is what we're doing. That's why we piloted. We realized it's not giving us the right thing. We withdrew. We are piloting actually with real kids, real children who are going to school in 2 weeks' time.
Can I ask a function question for Parliament? Because you've mentioned this a couple of times and you said you questioned.
Yeah.
You raised a question on the floor of the House. Who answers? And when do they answer?
As it is now, as it was the chairpersons, that is how in our constitution, that's the model that we chose when we passed the constitution. But Constitution is also a work in progress. So as we implement, we realize what needs to change. And that is why the other day we brought an amendment so that the cabinet secretaries can now come to Parliament, so that they can also answer questions. And many were saying why you bring it back is because as we work, we realize the chairperson will not sufficiently answer those questions. If anything, they are reading what the cabinet or the PS has written at the ministry, or probably even the cabinet secretary did not write, they sign. They give the technocrats down there, and they're only brought for the statement to sign, and they give the chairperson in Parliament. But when the CS comes, they have to own it. They have to own the process. They have to say exactly what they're doing. And so the Speaker then has ruled, and I hope they do what Parliament, because as I'm telling you, Parliament sometimes does its job, but then the implementers and the executors don't. So it has been ruled by the Speaker that then each higher institution should have a desk when the students report.
Yes.
So that anyone who has a question, anyone who needs to appeal, anyone probably who's not familiar with technology so much or whatever, can have a desk where they can raise those questions. Most likely that won't happen. Kids will go to school and there'll be no one to assist them or to appeal on what already they have. The second question that then we ask, I hope we have the funds for this. Because you've now lowered, there's a student which I saw the government bloggers were very happy to circulate that a student will only now pay 15,000, and that's just one or two cases across the country. There are still others who will still pay more depending on the band, but now they're very happy clapping on the 15. My question also has been, so the government is taking up a huge chunk of it through scholarship and bursaries. And then the parent now, if you're in band 1, will pay quite a small amount. So there is a parent, even if it's a small amount, can only raise maybe a quarter or a half of it when they're opening school. I hope the government then has capitation of the 70% ready of the scholarship and bursary. Because otherwise, our higher institutions also they're facing a capitation problem. I am the vice chair of PIC, Public Investments Committee, which then oversights education and matters governance. So I know the challenges that our universities are also going through. So now already they don't get their normal capitation. Now you've said you're going to give them, you've seen us on the floor asking about delays in help.
Yes.
You've seen, Now we are saying not only help, we are also giving bursaries and scholarships. I hope that money will be there. Otherwise, these children and parents will be so strained, they'll be sent home because of school fees, or they won't sit for their exams because government has not remitted capitation to the higher education institutions. Where do those students then get government? As in whose government? Who you will see a lot of strikes in the coming months if we do not get it right, because then, as I said, it has to have been something that was thought through properly, including how that money will be remitted before those students sit for the exams. I am not too sure that has been done.
But this is the thing, and I think, you'll forgive me, but I think it incenses me some point, because we look at function, don't we? And then we bring it back to, CT said earlier that politicians feed off of the emotions or the position of the people. And just from what you're saying now, I think it is thoroughly frustrating for the parents who will send, whether it is their little children, 3, 4, 5 years old, to school, or the parents who will send their 18, 19-year-old to university from wherever they are in the country. And here we are having a conversation about a plan that has been put in place. And the people who have made the plan do not even know if they will have enough in terms of resources to watch that plan live out. These are the people who are planning the country. Don't know. How do we resonate? How should we, if not with anger or frustration?
So there's this whole debate, and it's a welcome debate and a timely one, and especially when we're dealing with this issue of the new funding model, on the whole issue of bursaries, where you have the governor who's issuing bursaries, which I have to say, I I do not understand why governors should be giving out bursaries to high school and universities. And also we have a notion in this country, when someone says something like that, it is then said that Naisula is fighting her governor or fighting a governor. I said, let us speak with each other. I raise my point, you raise yours on why you think you should. And then we all listen to each other and get something good out of it. So my point is and why I said that is because in the Constitution and in our laws, the functions of the county governments mostly is on ECD, early childhood education. So why are you giving bursaries to the higher education and the secondary schools? But that's a discussion for another time. And then we have the MPs through NGCDF who are giving out the bursaries. We have women reps also giving out bursaries, and then we have the presidential, there's something, a scholarship fund where he's giving out bursaries and all that. Honorable Esther Passaris brought a motion in Parliament again. Parliamentarians are doing their role. She brought a motion where she's saying, let's lump all this money together, and it's a conversation going on in the country, and then it is done from the ministry through the basic education. I do not agree with that.
Thank you so much.
Because
Thank you.
I do not agree with that. You know why? My friends, when we passed the Constitution and we said we want issues to be devolved, we want matters to be devolved, you want to take back again bursaries all the way to Jogo House. So that it is disbursed, whether it's through capitation or whatever, and deciding who is the child gets the bursaries, we can only get it to the lowest, devolve it further. There are genuine concerns on issues bursaries which are being raised. It matters corruption, where the people who disburse it, some even ask if the check is for 50,000, probably they tell you bring something small, I give you the 50,000. I mean, those are allegations. I don't know how true they are. Okay. So smoke, issues fire, of corruption. Okay, yeah. There are issues of corruption again, ghost schools, where we get bursaries issued to schools where the schools don't exist. There is also the issue of duplication. The member of parliament gives the same student, governor gives the same student, everybody gives the same student, while probably there's another student who has not gotten. So there's the issue of duplication. And finally, the issue of discrimination. Probably you didn't support me in my political journey, so I'm not going to give you bursary. So the whole issue of discrimination also happens. But having said that, for me, if you take away all these bursaries, because I saw my good friend Honorable Sankok, so that we're also not just sensationalizing issues, I saw Honorable Omtata saying how much it is, and if you really lump it up, we can have free education for all. I am for free education for all, not bringing it back to some office at Jogo House. If that money can actually really give us free education for all, I mean, I would be so happy as the member. I'm so happy as the member of Parliament of Samburu to be offloaded the burden of issue of bursaries. I'd be so happy, because it's not easy, by the way, also, because the money is paltry, the people are many. Take that money, provided that money gives us free education for our children. And again, when we say free, it has to be free.
But Mheshimiwa, I mean, the question is this: the huge amount that is allocated to education, are you sure that money cannot give us the free education we want?
Yes, no. Is it even all this money that's bursary all over
all
the
these
place?
Other things that come about.
I know. So I sit also in budget committee,
right?
And so I have the privilege of seeing things as they are. I mean, they get about is it 6 billion or 7?
100.
Yeah,
100.
100.
Budget for education.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to say of because the thing is, so it's education, but I wanted to segment it, but that's a long thing. No, but I want to say this. So when you look at education, it comes in many forms. One, where we have the Teacher Service Commission, it's still under the budget of education, where we have to pay our teachers, right?
Yes.
We have the higher education, where we also have to give the help and all. We have the issues of infrastructure, from primary school all the way to our universities. We have our lecturers who have to be paid. We have the school feeding program, where we have to feed our children in the ASL areas. We have the curriculum development. We have to develop our curriculum, and so on and so on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And they all get their budgets from that 100. 600B. Sorry, I keep getting the figures wrong. But, so they all have to get it here. Also, don't forget issues to do with capitation. Because free primary education is actually free.
Is it?
Where they get, where I know that it's not free is where we say we have free day school education. And that is what I keep saying. If we're doing free, please just say it is free.
Yes.
If it is not free, it is not free.
Let me just chime in here, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah.
Have we been shown evidence by those like yourselves who understand this and the mandarins in Jogo House and Ministry of Education that this money is insufficient for these tasks? Have they demonstrated that this money is insufficient?
I mean, for free education,
for
and that is why, that is why now Kenyans are saying, please get all these bursaries and put it, together, and then give us free education. Because to be fair, all this, what I have said, all these departments and all these other roles require funding, and we actually allocate the funds during the budget process. It is allocated. So genuinely, we have to get extra funding for us to get that, as much as I'd want to hate or to whatever, we would have to look for extra resources for us to make it free.
Let me just ask, because we're getting to the top of the hour, has it been demonstrated that it is insufficient? The reason why I'm making it that simple is because the reason why we have specialities in disciplines is so that we are able to get to the nitty-gritty, gets to the heart of the matter. This devolved system where you have bursary and you have this is for a reason. There is thinking behind it. It isn't just somebody who woke up and had a vision. No, some serious thinking went into it. It can't just be pushed aside and say that when we push it aside, we'll solve the problem. We won't. If it can be demonstrated, and that burden is not on you, it is on the Ministry of Education to demonstrate clearly.
It's not enough.
Yes.
And once they demonstrate, and please, it should also be clear that members of parliament, I'll speak for Naisula, I have no reason why I want to hold on to bursaries if indeed it is demonstrated to me, as you're saying, because it's not me actually, it's not mine. NGCDF is not Naisula. I am just oversighting as a member of parliament. And so if it is demonstrated scientifically, as you have said, that if you mop up all these bursaries, that we are going to have free education for our children, we will support that policy when it comes there. But we can't also just blanketly, as you're saying, just saying this is going to help us, this is not going to help us.
And they haven't demonstrated that what we have currently is not meeting the needs. Even that hasn't been demonstrated.
Exactly.
Yes.
So let us see how this pans out, especially the new funding model. I really pray that, and I hope, and we will be keeping, not just pray, because we also have a thing of just praying. the praying I wanted to say is the praying that I will be keeping tabs. Really, because I asked the question, and I'll be keeping tabs to see that our students who qualified, who worked so hard to qualify to go to these institutions, are well funded. You know why I was also saying that is because, for example, we have challenges of collecting money as a country, and then exchequer being remitted.
Yes.
I mean, NGCDF Samburu West has not received 46 million of the previous financial year, even as we start this one. So how are we sure that the monies for capitation for the new funding model will get to schools on time?
We are sure they won't.
And I keep saying, we don't. It's not a problem of we don't have money. It is priorities. Because you've noticed when teachers make noise, somehow money just is found for them not to go on strike. When MPs say, oh, we need NGCDF because we need classrooms, somehow the money is found. So it is about priorities, and I'd really hope we can prioritize education. We can prioritize matters to do with health. The last question I wanted to say about the new funding model is we're going the US way, where we're giving loans. So, of course, we're saying it's free. We're lessening the burden on the parent with a 70%, but 45% is a loan, or 50% is a loan. By the time this poor child who comes from a poor background is graduating and gets their first job, and the first job, the entry level would be about 40,000, you're starting with a huge loan.
You have a debt already.
Or you already have a debt. And that is why in the US, one of the main campaign, one of the issues is the writing off of the student loans. You will see in the next campaign agenda, school, that even in Kenya, it will be an issue where students will be saying, please write off for us
the loans.
The loans. So, I mean, we have to look, and nowadays I've become, being a third timer now in Parliament, I look at things differently and not at face value of what is brought, oh, this is good, oh, it is here. I have to think deeper. Who's the beneficiary? What is it for? Is it practical? And when we raise these issues, because that is our role in government, I am not fighting the government. I'm doing my job so that there's accountability, so that it works, so that we change what needs to be changed, even as we implement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here this morning. Definitely conversations that need to happen so that we keep letting it be known that we know, isn't it? Yeah. Member of Parliament for Samburu West Constituency. We'll see you again in the hot seat in the near future.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.